Bienvenidos de nuevo a Oportunidades en Grecia, el podcast en el que tratamos de acercar las oportunidades en el marco de la internacionalización, de la exportación, la inversión y la captación de financiación que el país presenta para la empresa española. Welcome again to Oportunidades en Grecia, the podcast where we try to get business opportunities regarding exports and investments in the country, Greece, to Spanish companies. Today, we're celebrating, this is our 10th episode, and we will take advantage to talk once more about renewables. If you remember, we talked about this with Atenas from Iberdrola Rocas some time ago. Today, we're here with a good friend of us, Chryssa Gianopoulou. Chryssa, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining. Chryssa is country manager at Ecoener Hellas and has a long-lasting experience in renewables. She's been working before for Enel for more than 10 years and before that for Gamesa, also a Spanish company, now participated by Siemens. Let me briefly say a couple of things about the company, although Chryssa will tell us quite some more info about it in a couple minutes. But the company Ecoener is a 35-year-old company coming from La Coruña, Spain, with parks in operation in 10 countries in America, Central Europe and Africa, and with an asset portfolio of a little bit more than 550 megawatts. And here we go with the Q&A, with the questions and answers. Very briefly, before the first question, I would like to add that there's been a steady growth of renewable energy in the country in the last, I would say, 2 decades. First, mainly through wind, now mainly through solar, but also with investments in wind, of course. Steady growth of the capacity that has run somehow parallel to the growth in demand. And I just mentioned, maybe we will develop in the conversation, there is a cornerstone of the development of the renewables, which is the grid. And here we go, the first question. Chryssa, how would you assess in that framework the evolution of renewables in Greece in the last 2 decades?
First of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy that I'm here today, and for the nice introduction as well. So Greece traditionally generated electricity from coal plants. If we go a little bit back in history globally, the first official commitment for the decrease of the emissions came with the Kyoto Protocol in 1997. Since then, the discussion about the tackle of the climate change in a sustainable way was really a necessity. And after the next decades, the targets were revised, and we arrive in 2015, 2016 with 2 very important milestones: the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and the very important Paris Agreement that had the ultimate goal to keep the global warming to the level of no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to the pre-industrial levels. So Greece, as a European country, had ratified all these agreements and set specific goals in its national plan for energy and climate, so that we are compliant with the global commitments. It's important to say that Greece had to change its DNA, the DNA of the country, from a coal-based to a green electricity DNA. The first legislation, of course, came with a complete frame for the development of the renewables, came quite late in 2006. And the big milestone for renewables, it was in 2008 with the first spatial planning for the renewables. We need to remember always that Greece is a country full of wind and sun, so this must be reflected in our energy mix. And that's why we see that the last 2 decades, indeed, many things have happened in the renewable sector. Currently, we have 11 gigawatt installed capacity in the country. And there were also in 2022 and 2023, we have a couple of hours that the electricity demand was covered for more than 90% from renewables. Even for a couple of hours, we had 100% coming from renewables. So all this show that we are in a growing path. Of course, there are several actions that need to be done in order to support this and boost this growth and reach our national targets and, of course, secure a sustainable future for the next generations.
Really interesting the way the sector has evolved in the last 2 decades. I would like to talk in this interview with you from a different angle, the angle of a company that has just gotten to the market. Could you explain a little bit more what is Ecoener? I gave a couple ideas before in my presentation, but if you could go on a little bit beyond that and explain us what is Ecoener as an important player in the future in the market, and when and why did you decide to go into the market here in Greece?
You had a very nice introduction for us, so thank you for this. Ecoener is, as you said, is a Spanish company with based in La Coruña in Galicia. And it's the vision of Luis de Valdivia, our chairman and founder, that 35 years ago saw the potential in the renewable sector and established Ecoener. We are 35 years later. We have presence now in more than 12 countries in the world, with installed capacity of 250 megawatt and more than 300 megawatt in construction, and a pipeline of 1.7 gigawatt. Basically, our goal is always to operate with respect to the environment, with respect to the local communities, and in a sustainable way. So let's go into the decision for entering the Greek market. At Ecoener, we face the future setting goals of excellence, and excellence was one of the parameters in order to take the decision to enter the Greek market. Although the Greek renewables market is a mature market, it has some attractive characteristics. It's a market that, despite the economic crisis, the financial crisis of the previous years, has managed to keep its growth, stability and attractiveness to a very good level. And we need to remember that there are also significant commitments from the Greek government related to the energy investments, which is also including new technologies of ours like storage, and this is always perceived in a very good way from the new investors.
And so, because this is, as I said, part of the things that the audience would like to know more about. So once the decision was taken, we were talking about that sort of mature market that had still a lot to offer. What have been the main milestones to enter the market you have undercome? Were there any surprises? I know you've been working in the market for a long period of time for different companies, now for Ecoener. But were there any surprises, positive surprises, or those that could be less positive, let's say, as an investor?
Look, the first and very important step is to find the proper team to work with. And now I'm very proud to say that we are a team of professionals with wide experience in the Greek renewable sector, and we are very selective with our partnerships. The first important challenge that a new company has to face entering the country is to overcome the bureaucracy for the establishment of a subsidiary in the country and the inflexible deadlines. It was a positive surprise for me, the fact that this process was concluded very smoothly, and I believe that the success for this was the very competent team, not only the internal, but also our external consultants. Another important milestone, another important challenge in a market that it's a mature market, like the renewables market in Greece. It's quite difficult to find new projects with good locations or good projects that they are under development. We have the patience, we evaluate properly all the investment opportunities, and we want to make small and safe steps. So we don't want to go with many megawatts, but to go with good megawatts. This is our target as a company and as a team. And our strength is also the fact that we have a very good team in the headquarters that support us a lot.
Well, that's I see basically a very positive approach to whatever has happened to the company. As you know, in the Economic Commercial Office, we try to help companies that are going to get installed in the country with different services, such as those that help you measure the cost of establishing the company and services providers and so on and so forth. Let's get back to the energy sector. The rate of renewable penetration in the electricity mix has increased in Greece, as you mentioned, actually, in spite of the ups and downs in consumption due to the financial crisis or COVID. Do you expect this trend to hold?
Look, the climate has changed, and this is a reality that we all face. We don't really just read it anymore in the scientific reports. We face extreme weather conditions in our everyday lives. Don't forget that this summer in Greece we had extreme fires, and a couple of weeks ago we had floods that we have never seen before. So this phenomena will continue and will be even worse in the near future. So we need to continue with renewables and in order to create a more sustainable way of living and generating electricity. So it's important also to remember that we have our national targets that are in line with the European targets, and also the big target of the carbon neutrality by 2050 for all Europe. So the penetration of RES is necessary. We saw that a couple of days ago the European Commission revised their targets, so they increased from 32 to 42.5 the target for the renewables in the energy consumption, and this is something that needs to be depicted in the national targets as well. Our national plan for energy and climate is also under revision to be in line with the European targets. But on the other hand, these are the positive. On the other hand, we see that we have significant issues in the country that we need to solve in order to achieve the increase of renewables in the system. And we cannot overlook the grid saturation, which leads to problems in the connection terms issuance, which adds a lot of uncertainty for the realization of the projects. We cannot also overlook the fact that the permitting process sometimes is really complicated and time-consuming. And last but not least is the local acceptance that still is very low, and this is a critical issue for the implementation of the renewables, of the renewable projects. So all these issues need to be addressed in a proper way and try to solve them in order to have more RES in the system. And also, to keep the appetite for the investors to keep investing in this sector that has lots of potential.
Excellent, because you actually brought along the National Plan for Energy and Climate, which is, as you said, now being revised. And I would like to ask you about your opinion or your take on some of its main pillars, which are tenders, interconnection of the islands, among the islands, between the islands, among the islands and the continent. And here I will go a bit farther, between the country and all the countries around, and hybrid systems and offshore wind parks. How do you see these four pillars and its evolution in time?
Look, basically, the National Plan for Energy and Climate is it's a very important tool because it's the detailed roadmap for the achievement of the energy climate goals of the country and, of course, of the European targets. The last draft of the revised Greek plan, in general, is moving to the right direction and tries to keep up with most of the European targets. Basically, it's good, it's very positive that the participation of RES in the gross final energy consumption was set to 44%. It was increased quite a lot. And also the participation of renewables in the electricity generation has increased, which is very positive. We saw also that the increase of the target for the installation of the PVs with storage has increased. Also, the capacity for the new tenders for renewables with storage, which will be very critical in the future, also has increased. So, in general, it's moving to the right direction. It's tackling and basically it's touching the critical issues that need to be solved in the next years in Greece. And there are some issues, however, that must be looked again probably, like the fact that it was the capacity for the wind parks was reduced, the target was reduced slightly. So this is something that we believe should be reviewed again. And because we believe that there should be a good mix of renewables in the system in order to have the stability that we want.
Well, very interesting. You talked about the four main pillars and the way they've been treated along the years. I would like to ask you also, because we all keep listening to the importance of storage in order to increase the renewable capacity in the electricity mix. Where do you see that? Where do you see a storage facility in the whole map of energy/renewables in Greece?
Look, storage will play a key role in the next years. Is a future. It's necessary in order to provide more stability to the grid system. It will open space for more renewable projects in the system, and also it will protect the IPPs from the curtailments, from the energy curtailments. So it's important that we are boosting as a country this technology, and in whole Europe this is happening. And basically this is also the message that is being transmitted by the Ministry of Energy and IPTO, that the existing and the new projects need to have storage. So it's important to move on to this direction.
So more storage, the more storage, the better. It sounds to me. I want to get back once more the process of investment in the country of the company. And something we read from time to time in newspapers is about scarcity of well-suited human resources due to the drain of the 2000s and 2010s due to the financial crisis. Now, some of that drain coming back to the country. We are trying to help from the ministry, from the Secretary of State, from Ethics, with a program called Ethics Vives, which can provide companies with trainees from different fields at a very low funding cost. Could this sort of programs help cope with this sort of shortage? I heard you mentioning at the very beginning of the talk that you were lucky to find people very capable in the market. What do you think?
Indeed, lately I have this discussion with many people, not only in our sector, but also in companies in other sectors of the Greek economy. And the issue is always the same, that there is a difficulty to find competent resources. Indeed, personally, I didn't have this experience in Ecoener. I was very lucky because we are a good small team with good professionals. But the problem seems to be real. And I strongly believe that these programs like the Ethics Vives support a lot. They give a good solution to this problem. They support it a lot. And I believe that they give this opportunity to the companies to have on board young, talented people that they will be trained, and like that, a good pool of professionals is created. will be created that will be used either by the same company or by other companies. But also it's very good opportunity for the young people because they are getting in a challenging environment, professional environment, and they build their skills for their professional growth. So I fully support this kind of initiatives, and congrats for this program.
Okay, I'm glad we designed the program on the right way so that it can help Spanish companies or companies dealing with Spanish companies get human resources through this training program of high excellence. Well, listen, a very interesting talk. We have discussed about very different issues, the sector of renewables, energy and renewables, and also the process of investing in the country, Ecoener's experience, many ideas I can talk about. You mentioned the change in the DNA of the country regarding energy/renewables, the positive approach to the trend of renewable energy that you foresee. You talked about two issues that have been very important lately in the country. This summer has been very tough, fires and floods. You talk also about something that I find quite interesting, which is local acceptance of renewals, because they somehow, of course, bring changes, and that those have to be inferior, and they are obviously to the pros that renewables bring. And you talked a lot also about storage as a way to avoid curtailments, which I think is also relevant. So, Chryssa, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Jorge, for the invitation and this nice discussion. And I'm very positive for the future of renewables in Greece.
Excellent. Well, it's great to have the opinion of an expert, someone that has been in the market for a long period of time now. Y nosotros nos vemos de nuevo pronto en Oportunidades en Grecia. Aún hay mucho por conocer sobre el país, en materias tan dispares como los procesos de implementación, hidrocarburos, digitalización. Hasta pronto.